Raghunatang vitang tang sajivam sadvaitam savadutam parijana sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitangscha Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karati Vāchalam Pango Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamahang Bande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam Nama Shrestam Manamapi Sachiputra Atra Swarupam Rupam Tasya Grajam Adupurim Maturim Gostavatim Radha Kundam Girivaramaho Radhika Madhavasam Prapto Jasya Pratita Kripaya Sri Gurun Tanmatosmi Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya Hemavadivyachcha Visundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. So we were discussing the Sannyas Leela of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how he left Navadvip under Makara Sankranti and went to Katwa and took sannyas from Keshava Bharati. And just pick up here in the golden volcano of divine love, where Srila Guru Maharaj, he says, for about 18 years, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu led a scholarly life as Nimai Pandit. After that, for about 6 years, he wandered through the length and breadth of India, including Vrindavan. Right? So we know that, as we heard sometimes during the sannyas ceremony, Chandrasekhar Acharya is doing the ritualistic aspect of it. But Nimai Pandit, halfway through the shaving, he's standing up, chanting and dancing in ecstasy. Again, during the ceremony, he is repeatedly engaged in Nam Sankirtan, and after he whispers the sannyas mantra to Keshava Bharati, infuses it with Gopi Bhav, and then receives it back from him with this new current. At the conclusion, he leaps up and they engage in Nam Sankirtan and Keshava Bharati. He's also ecstatically dancing and tossing the kamandalu and the danda, and they're just singing and dancing, oblivious to everything. And Mahaprabhu begins his search for Sri Krishna. Reality the beautiful. Kahan Krishna Prananath, Murali Vadan, Kahan Karun, Kahan Pan, Rajendra Nandan. He's madly racing towards Vrindavan. And he's taken this, and what is he chanting? In remembrance of from the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, the Avanti Brahman, this famous verse, Etam sa astaya paratmanishtam upasitam purvatamar maharshivi ahang tarishami durantaparam tamo mukundangri nisheva. That as the ancients did, I will, in acceptance of this sannyas, cross over the ocean of nescience, the ocean of misconception. Right? Ocean of nescience means that, it's not otherwise. What does that mean? Ignorance, misconception, misconceived identity. Ayi nanda tanuja kinkaram patitame patitamam vishame bhavam budho. I'm Krishna Kinkar, Krishna's eternal servant, and somehow I'm drowning in an ocean of forgetfulness of this very fact. It's one of the last things I ever heard Srila Prabhupada say when he left India, went to London in the last few months, possibility of some treatment. But Srila Prabhupada was in a very divine state, like I would say, not so conscious of this world, and so much conscious in the upper world and surrounded by the devotees. And his speech barely audible, and he was saying to somebody, and all the devotees around, he said, so they know what is Krishna consciousness? And different people started volunteering different correct answers, but he was just smiling to hear what was being said. And he said, all we have to understand is that we are eternal servants of Krishna, and we have no other business other than service to Krishna. And he said, that's all. We're eternal servants of Krishna, and we have no other business than serving Krishna. That's all. Right? So, now Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like the Goswami, Srinivasa Acharya says, Hey Radhe Brajadevi Ke Chalalite Hey Nanda Suno Kutaha. Searching. The wealth is in the search. Right? Saying, where are they? Where are Radha and Krishna? Are they on the banks of the Jamuna? Nanda Shuno Kuta. Where is the son of Nanda Maharaj? Brajendra Nandan. Right? So he's running, and Kesava Bharati, of course, there's the description of Chaitanya Bhagavat, description of Charitamritam. Right here, with a handful, he's going and telling that at first it's saying like everyone's following him. Tears from the eyes of millions, the millions are following him. And he's saying, dear people, return to Navadvip. Bhaja Krishna, Bolo Krishna, Krishna, Shiksha, Bolo Krishna. Worship Krishna, chant Krishna's name, embrace Krishna's instructions. Right? And he proceeds, he believes he's going to Vrindavan, and in the company of a few, we'll say Charidhamma, Nityananda, Mukunda, some others. And wandering like this for 3 days without eating. That's why Srila Guru Maharaj would only take dalma and very simple things at the mat, because Mahaprabhu is fasting during that time. And when they find a place to rest, when the devotees wake up in the morning, they can't find him. But then sometimes they hear this piteous wailing. 2 miles away you could hear it. This heart-breaking crying for Krishna. And then they would find him, and they proceed together for some time. Then sometimes he vanishes. So, and really he's heading in the western direction, which means he's going to Radhadesh, which means the place where the Ganga does not flow. So it's mentioned elsewhere, where the, inauspiciousness, where the Ganga doesn't flow, the Pandavas didn't go there, the holy name of Krishna isn't taken, different reasons. But then we have great devotees are born, Pundarik Vidyanidhi, for example. But so it's told, and why did Mahaprabhu go there? Well, for this very reason, right? It's an excuse, in a sense, he's Sri Krishna Chaitanya, to bring Krishna consciousness to everyone. And Guru Maharaj said he's wandering in this ecstatic condition in a childlike state. Right? And according to the various descriptions, remember the devotees back in Navadvip, they're devastated. Mother Sachi is like a statue. Advaita is threatening suicide, as are other devotees. Then Advaita Acharya and Chaitanya Bhagavan, he says, I know if I try to do it in the daytime, the devotees will stop me, so I'll wait till tonight. Right? And many of them are thinking like that. And so he's also aware of that and not wanting to ever cause pain in the hearts of his devotees. So, and Chaitanya Bhagavat, he's telling Nityananda, you go there and tell everyone that it's okay, I will end up being in Advaitas in Shantipur. There he tells that. In Charitamritam, that's not expressed or unknown to him. Right? But here he's saying, this will be the outcome, so go tell them. Because we can say, by the affectionate pull of the hearts of the devotees, he cannot go. He's being pulled by them. And we're told at one point he hears a voice, that's the devotees in Navadvip. They hear a voice in the sky telling them, everything's going to be all right. You're going to meet with Mahaprabhu again. Don't do anything foolish. It's really, they're on the verge of suicide and the depths of their separation. And Mahaprabhu gets the inspiration that Jagannath is Krishna and he should go to Puri. Ultimately that happens. Still, and Nityananda goes to Navadvip and calms all the devotees and said he will appear in Shantipur, everyone go there. And Mother Sachi, who hasn't eaten for so many days, he's telling her, whom the Vedas are searching for, Shrutibir Vimrigyam, right, is your son. Right? So, and he, if you do not eat, he cannot eat. That is how he appeals to her. And saying, and I'm also hungry. It's been 3 days. And he's saying, so you will meet with him again in Shantipur. Then Mother Sachi starts cooking and feeding Nityananda by that account. In Charitamritam, Mahaprabhu is wandering by this time by himself, and he sees some cowherd boys, very young ones, and they're saying Hari Bol and Hare Krishna and taking Harinam, and so he thinks he must be going in the right direction toward Vrindavan. Look, there are cowherd, Vrindavan must be, around the corner. And Nityananda, what he does not know is Nityananda told those boys, it says he gave a reasonable explanation and told them, when he comes and he asks, where is Vrindavan? Say, the Jamuna is in this direction. So when Mahaprabhu does inquire for them, they point that way, and he, on his way there, remember, he's in this state of divine madness. He doesn't recognize Nityananda other than seeing a sannyasi. And he's saying, oh, Sripad, where is Vrindavan? Said, look, the Jamuna. He's, oh, I'm so fortunate. And he begins offering prayers to the Jamuna. Right? It's somewhere. What is that prayer? Anyway, he's saying, Prema Patri, that the Jamuna is Krishna Prem in liquid form. Right? So someone who will bathe in her waters. Chidananda Bano, Sadananda Shuno, Paraprema Patri, Drava Brahmagatri, Aghanam Lavitri, Jagat Kema Datri, Pavitri Kriyano Bapur Mitra Putri. Speaking of Mitra Putri, O daughter of the sun, although you have appeared in the form of water, you are most dear to the son of Nanda, who is the spiritual son. You dispel the sin of all sinners. Please purify this mortal body. So, he then is, and in that section where he's offering prayers to Jamuna, Srila Saraswati Thakur in his purport has around 30 prayers glorifying Jamuna. Just one after another, after another, after another. So when it says Mahaprabhu, there's one prayer, but he offered many prayers, and Saraswati Thakur is showing so many beautiful prayers in praise of Jamuna. And Nityananda had told the Dvaita to be there, and really it is the Ganga. So when Mahaprabhu, he's offering all these prayers to the Jamuna, when he comes out of the water, he only has the clothes that he's wearing. There is a Dvaita Charja with dry cloth. And then we're told he has these three states: internal, half external, half internal, and external. And it doesn't mean external consciousness and the conventional sense of the term, but just deeply internal, half, and more dealing with the objective world. So as he's gradually coming out of this deep internal state and sees Advaita, who's waiting there with the dry clothes, Uttariya Bahirvas, he's saying, Advaita, how did you know I was in Vrindavan? And Advaita said, wherever you are is Vrindavan. And that's true. You can't argue with that. Wherever he is, it's like Narottama Bhakti, Yatai Vaishnavagan Vrindavan Jaistan. Wherever there are the Vaishnavas, that place is Vrindavan. Why? Naham tishtami vaikunte yoginam hridayena cha tatra tishtami narada yad gayanti mad bhakta. Wherever my devotees are, they're singing my glories, I'm actually in that place. I'm not in Vaikuntha, I'm not in the hearts of the yogis, but wherever my devotees are engaged and singing my praise, I am there. I am drawn to that place. Ahang bhakta paradino hyasvan tantra ivadvija sadhubir bhakta hridayo bhakta janapriya. And although in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, he's declared as Swarat, independent, saying in the presence of devotion, what does that mean? The hearts of his devotees. He said, it's as if I lose my independence. Ahang bhakta. So what else does it say? Sadhavo hridayam mahyam. As we're told, they're always meditating upon Krishna. Krishna is always in their heart. But whom is Krishna always meditating on? His devotees and the supreme devotee. Remember when Nimai Pandit was starting to show devotional symptoms, qualities, characteristics. At one point, his heart is breaking in separation from Krishna, and he says to Gadadhar, where is Krishna? And Gadadhar says, Krishna is in your heart. And he starts tearing his chest, and Gadadhar stops and says, no, not like that. That's when Mother Sachi said, I like this Gadadhar. Everywhere, wherever Nimai is, Gadadhar should be there to look after him. And Gadadhar is Radharani, of course. Radharani looking after Krishna in Gaur Leela. Gaur Gadadhar. So Gadadhar Pandit is stationed in Puri for all those years, the pastimes of Mahaprabhu. So then gradually Mahaprabhu realized, oh, I've been cheated by Nityananda. He tricked me. And Advaita is saying, please, come to Shantipur. We're waiting there, and all the devotees will come, including Mother Sachi. And he said, I am just a poor householder. Remember, Mahavishnu, innumerable universes emanate from his pores when he's lying in Yoga Nidra. But in Gaurali, he's saying, I am a poor Brahmin householder. A few things we can offer at my house. So if you please come there, you haven't eaten for 3 days. So he agrees to go, and Mother Sachi and devotees come from Navadvip, and told Advaita Acharya, when they list the prasadam, they make these 3 plates and put all these different little pots around, and there's an offering to Vishnu or the Lord, and Mahaprabhu is thinking pull on a separate banana, take something, give him a little something, some lafra, some vegetables, and Advaita is saying, what are you saying? Because Mahaprabhu said, as a sannyasi, I cannot eat so many things and so many rich things. And he's saying, He said, in Puri, you eat 54 offerings a day. So certainly, whatever I've arranged here is not so much. But what is described there, so many wonderful preparations, and then it says, there are hundreds of little pots. Right? And whether or not we think these are exaggerations, they're not. I remember again on Prabhupada's appearance day in Kolkata, many years ago, Guru Maharaj told me to go this last one time, so that means it was in 1981, and there was a Bengali lady named Kishori Balaba, and we saw her, she was cooking for days for this. Her sari was black, like what we used to see with Mangal Maharaj. And her sari, just covered in soot, because they're using those buckets full of coals and stuff. So she made 216 preparations, personally. Right? And little clay huts, small amount, but 216 from one person. Right? And I should say this too, because it's Prabhupada's appearance day, so many people come for prasadam, so we serve them all, then they all left, and because the temple is smaller, then another group came in, served them all prasadam, then they left. And so now it was time for the servers to take prasadam, and Bhakti Charu, Shami Maharaj told me, he said, there's no prasadam left. We distributed it all. So we're like, oh, all right, well, whatever is the will of Krishna. But Prabhupada has this room with like these tall French doors. So we went to see Prabhupada's room and opened those French doors, and there was the 216 preparations that she made. So Krishna takes care of the devotees. But here, so there's hundreds of pots. So Advaita said, I'm a poor householder, if you will please come, a little vegetable and some rice I can offer. And so he coaxes Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu to sit, and then starts serving them happily. And when he goes half down, he fills it up again. Half down, up again. And Mahaprabhu was saying, how can I take all of this? And Advaita said, all right, just eat what you can, and we'll distribute the rest. And that's when Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita start joking. And so remember, there's hundreds. And Nityananda says, I was hoping to break my fast today, but I see that's not going to be possible. He is Ananta, right? Unlimited appetite. So he's saying what you've arranged here, it won't be sufficient, because I've also been fasting for 3 days, and I was hoping to break my fast. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. And Advaita Acharya is saying, look, you just accept what's offered to you. And I know a man like you could probably eat, like 50 kilos of rice. Where am I going to get that much rice? So just take what's offered to you, and and we're told Nityananda saying, he expresses his displeasure and then takes some rice and says, whatever you've offered, I haven't eaten the least of it. And then he throws the rice on the floor and disgust. And some of the rice hits Advaita, and Advaita Acharya starts dancing ecstatically. And it says, a variety of different dances. Like we sometimes see when people are celebrating, they just kind of go wild for a little bit and make peculiar movements. But these are beautiful, peculiar movements from the Mahavishnu avatar Sadashiva Advaita Acharya. Right? But still they continue their playful banter, and what is he calls Nityananda a brushta avadut. Like a brushta paramahansa means fallen, but it also can mean like dropped out of the sky. And he's just saying, like, I can see people like you think it's their duty to just go around and visit householders and give them a hard time. Right? That's your idea. Right? You were invited here, and then you've come here to give me a hard time. Right? And Nityananda is criticizing Advaita. They're going back, and what he told them too, Advaita before this was like, so just take this food, and try not to like make a mess. That's what he wants. Try to be, not to make a mess. And that's when he threw throwing the food, and then Nityananda says, food? This is prasadam, and if you call prasadam food, that is an aparad. So then he said, and to overcome this offense that you've committed by referring to prasadam as food. Remember, this is Balaram with Mahavishnu, Nityananda. To overcome that offense, you shall have to invite 100 sannyasis for lunch at your house. And Advaita says, I will never invite another sannyasi to my house as long as I live, after I dealt with you. And you think, Mahaprabhu just took sannyasis madly, and like this and all this wonderful prasad, and this is their conversation. We would think they have to say things like, oh, you are the avatar who descended to save everyone. And he's basically saying like, hey, eat and don't make a mess. And should you, 100 sannyasis, I'll never invite another sannyasi here. Forget it. That's how they're playing. Right? Not to utterly dismiss all these other types of appropriate glorification, but these pastimes are sweeter than that. They're juicier. As when in early Charitamritam, Krishna is saying, if my beloved, meaning Srimati Radharani, if she curses me, he said, that steals my mind away from the reverential hymns of the Vedas. He finds that sweet and enchanting. So afterwards, they rest, and Advaita Acharya brings them nice garlands and pan and mixed with tulsi and other things for them to chew, digestion and breath and all those. I mean, that's an insult, practically. And he's massaging the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu saying, no, now look. He said, you made me dance in so many different ways. Now you go take prasadam with Mukunda and Haridas, which they do. And when Mahaprabhu awakens, I want to read from this part where it says, when the people of Shantipur heard that Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was staying there, they all immediately came to see his lotus feet. Being very pleased, all the people loudly began to chant the holy name, Hari, Hari. Indeed, they became struck with wonder upon seeing the beauty of the Lord. And like this next line, it says, Gora Deho Kanti Surja Jiniya Ujjal Aruna Bastra Kanti Tahe Kore Jalamala. This, you see, this sounds like a line from an Arati song. Right? You see how these things come about. If you sing, Gora Deho Kanti Surya Jiniya Ujjala, Aruna Bastra Kanti Tahe Kore Jalamala. It's same. They saw Mahaprabhu's very fair complexion body, golden complexion, Goro Deho Kanti, Surja, as bright as the sun, Jiniya Ujjal, more brilliant than the sun, and Aruna Bastra Kanti, the beauty of the saffron garments glittered upon his body, like we heard the other day. Raso Dama Kamar Buddha Madhura Damojula Tanur, Jati Nam Utangshas Tarani Koti Vidyoti Vasana. The Chaitanyastakam of Rupa Goswami. Says, the people came and went with great pleasure. There was no calculating how many people assembled there before the day was over. And again, Rupa Goswami's Chaitanyastakam, Sadopasya Srimandrita Manujakai Pranaitam Bahadbir Girvane Girisha Paramesha Pavrittibi. Brahma, Shiva, gods, goddesses, they're all donning human forms to participate in these pastimes and have a glimpse of Gauranga Sundar Mahaprabhu. And as soon as it was evening, Advaita Acharya began the congregation, what does it say? Arambila Sankirtan. He began to dance, and the Lord saw the performance. Then here, when Advaita Acharya began to dance, Nityananda Prabhu began dancing behind him. Haridas Thakur, being very pleased, also began dancing behind him. And as we've heard in other sections of Chaitanya Charitamritam, that in the last 12 years of his manifest pastimes, behind closed doors in the Gangbir, Mahaprabhu plunging the depths of Radha Bhav incessantly in the company of Srup Damodar and Ramananda. And what are they hearing? What are the sources? Materials are Krishna Karnamritam, Krishna Nectar for the Ear, Gita Govinda of Jayadev, Jagannath Ballava Natak of Ramananda Roy, and the songs of Vidyapati and Chandidas. So, one or two verses from Jagannath Ballava Natak, a few verses from Gita Govinda, few verses from Krishna Karnamritam are in the pages of Chaitanya Charitamritam. But what are those songs of Vidyapati and Chandidas? We know in Religion of the Heart, Srila Guru, the Shyamanam, which you can where that's been extracted from Chaiva Dharma or elsewhere. But here is one line from a song of Vidyapati, and it's sung by Advaita Acharya. This Ki Kohibo Re Saki Ajukanandam Or Chiradine Madhava Mandire More. That Advaita Acharya, my dear friends, what shall I say? Today I have received the highest transcendental pleasure. After many, many days, Lord Krishna is in my house. So this is the song being sung by Advaita Acharya. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, this is a song composed by Vidyapati. This song was composed to commemorate the separation of Krishna from Radharani during Krishna's absence in Mathura. It is thought that this song was sung by Srimati Radharani when Krishna returned. It is technically called Mathura Biraha. And it says, Advaita Acharya led the Sankirtan party with great pleasure. He sang this verse. There was a manifestation of ecstatic perspiration, shivering, raised hairs, tears in the eyes, and sometimes thundering and bellowing. While dancing, Advaita Acharya would sometimes turn around and catch the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Advaita Acharya would then speak to him as follows. Many days you escaped me by blood. Imagine. So they're singing and dancing. And while they're singing and dancing, Advaita starts saying to them, many days you escaped me by bluffing. Now I have you in my home and I will keep you bound here. Advaita, so speaking, Advaita Acharya performed this Sankirtan, chanting and dancing with great pleasure for 3 hours that night, and danced all the time. When Advaita Acharya danced in that way, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt ecstatic love for Krishna. Right? And because of his separation, the waves and flames of love increased. Being agitated by the ecstasy, Mahaprabhu suddenly fell to the ground. Seeing this, Advaita Acharya stopped dancing. Then it says, Prabhu Rantara Mukunda Jane Balamate Bhaver Sadrisha Paralagila Gaite. When Mukunda saw the ecstasy of Mahaprabhu, he understood the feelings of the Lord and began to sing many verses augmenting the force of the Lord's ecstasy. Advaita Acharya raised the body of Mahaprabhu to help him dance. But the Lord, after hearing the stanzas sung by Mukunda, could not be held due to his bodily symptoms. Tears fell from his eyes. His whole body trembled and shivered. His bodily hair stood on end. He perspired heavily. His words faltered. Sometimes he stood and sometimes he fell. And sometimes he cried. And then Mukunda sings, ha ha, prana, ha ha, that is like, oh, ha ha, prana priya saki, kina hoelo more, kanu prema vishe mora, tanu mana jare. My dear intimate friend, what has not happened to me? Due to the effects of the poison of love for Krishna, my body and mind have been severely afflicted. Ratri dine pore mana swayasti napan, jahan gele kanupan, tahan urijan. My feeling is like this. My mind burns day and night. I can get no rest. If there were some place I could go to meet Krishna, I would immediately fly there. And remember, they're singing and dancing. And Mukunda, what he's singing, this is what it means. E padagai Mukunda madura susvare suniya prabhura chitta antare bidare. Said, when this verse, right, was sung by Mukunda in a very sweet voice, saying what? My mind is burning day and night, I can get no rest. If there was some place I could go to meet Krishna, I would fly there immediately. When this was sung by Mukunda in a very sweet voice, singing very sweetly, he said, but Mahaprabhu, when he heard it, his mind went to pieces. The transcendental ecstatic symptoms, nirved, bishad, harsh, chapalya, garba, doinya, disappointment, moroseness, pleasure, restlessness, pride, humility, all began to fight like soldiers within the Lord. The entire body of Mahaprabhu began to totter due to an onslaught of various ecstatic symptoms. So it's identifying all these different ecstatic symptoms and saying like they're having a war within the divine form of Mahaprabhu, one against another. As a result, he immediately fell to the ground and his breathing almost stopped. Upon seeing the condition of the Lord, all the devotees became very anxious. Then suddenly, the Lord got up and began to make thundering sounds. And he's saying, Bolo, bolo, go on, singing. speaking. Thus he began to dance, overwhelmed with pleasure. No one could understand the strong waves of this ecstasy. Nityananda Prabhu began to walk with Mahaprabhu to see that he would not fall. And Advaita Haridas followed him dancing. And this way the Lord danced for at least 3 hours. Sometimes the symptoms of ecstasy were visible, including pleasure, moroseness, and many other waves of ecstatic emotional love. Then Udanda Nrityete. The Lord had been fasting for 3 days. And that period, then he took prasadam. Thus, when he danced and jumped high, he became a little fatigued. Right? See how they're human-like pastimes. We can say, oh, he's the omnipotent personality of Godhead. He knows no fatigue. No, these are human-like pastimes. So having fasted, and then feasted, and now they're chanting for 3 hours, and he's Udanda means jumping up straight. Like we hear in the Rath Yatra, 3 types of dancing. Udanda Nritya, Madhu Nritya, and Tandava Nritya. Udanda means jumping straight up in the air and coming down again, repeatedly like that. Madhu Nritya means sweetly swaying and dancing. And Tandava Nritya means mad, devastating dance like Shiva at the time of, the total devastation. Just mad, frenetic dancing. And that's what you see. When you hear what's being described here, one thing sounds pleasant, the other not so pleasant. Right? There's happiness, crying, then there's there's moroseness, sadness, then can be followed by ecstatic laughter. When he was mad, Nimai Pandit, laughing, ecstatic, Jagat Dubai,